It's Tuesday, February 7th, 2023. I'm watching the Eyewitness Channel 7 news at noon. Um, and on here, there's this ongoing, unfolding story about this congressman from Queens named George Santos. And his he got elected somehow. Like again, like I in the schools that I was in, they weren't teaching this level of US education about Congress people, senators, governors, that sort of thing. Um I met with some governmental officials throughout my time spent on Long Island. They always asked me for words, but I didn't really know what the words meant. And then they said they're government words, and I was, again, they're not vocabulary that's spoken of in the classroom where they're sending me. Was at the side of the pool, 7th grade. I told the swim instructor who was having us go back and forth in our own lane for whatever. I'm not sure if that day there was an adjudicator there. Again, it's a little fuzzy. But I'm listening to this, and now there's a whole bus full of people from Queens that are living in Queens that have far superior intelligence to than what I was um, able to learn throughout going to a North American school where there's some canopy called United States of America. I'm not really quite sure how that works at an integrated level. And then it brings back there's an Afghanistan woman here, and she goes through this very elaborate how they get their forces outside of the US word from inside the US. And I'm like, well, now that's interesting because here I am in my senior year of high school when we were forced out of Long Island into Queens, same island, just from like the body of the island to the head of the island. Um, I went to the St. John's Prep to sign up for high school, and there was somebody in there that wanted to talk to me about um, registering for the school, which I did. And then one of the papers was something in an official capacity with if I wanted intelligence, I had to sign a specific piece of paper. And I'm like, well, what's the other choice? Of course, I want to be intelligent. And she's like, well, if you don't sign the paper, then there will be no intelligence. And I'm like, that doesn't even sound like that's an option. I was like, I mean, I can't survive my whole life without intelligence of some sort. She's like, then sign the paper. And I'm like, right. Okay. So, but now what's interesting is in St. John's Prep on Crescent Street in Astoria in the year 1995 until now, there's been zero communications between me and that school and anything that even slightly resembles intelligence. Just so my file is updated properly. So I'm listening to this bus full of courageous Americans, is what they have, I think, on their shirts, as they're journeying to Washington from Queens on some bus in some organized fashion for which I would have no idea how to even find a group like this. I did complete exercise yesterday and today as far as health stats go. I have no idea who or what the health minister for this area is. Um, I don't know. I on my Fitbit it says 10,000 steps in a day. That's something new for me. I never even heard that before. I heard it a while back when Lynn was in Jenny Craig, but again, doesn't really ring a bell. Not much more with it. There's been very little communication, if any. I mean, it's the noise box with the visual, and I'm trying to pay attention to it, but it doesn't really come through with anything really intelligent necessarily. Although I'm working on trying to gain some facts of how other people are operating inside the city while I'm here and I've been here, and I feel like I've just been ignored in not getting the same level of support and help that I need to be a participant, but again, not knowing who to address on this. And then thinking back under the same flag system, about the two swim instructors from day camp, not from the junior high school, but from the day camp. One taught me to float on my back and swim to the side of the pool and then wait because he had a whole side of the pool that he had to tend to, and I wasn't the only one. And then there was a separate instructor who taught us to tread water until we tired, and we were to alert him if we were getting tired, which again, I sat and I just treaded water, not really sure what tired was like at that point, since there seemed to be more than enough energy to just tread quietly and wait for further instructions if he needed something. Um, and then at some point, if we started to cramp, or if we didn't know what a cramp was, but thought that we might be getting a cramp, because that got confusing. Um, how the other way, in order to reserve energy in case we're ever in a water situation where there's not an edge of the pool to swim to for safety. Was not sure when that was going to come into a life frame, but here we are on a planet with people more than enough intelligence amongst a big group of us. But I somehow got into this really precarious position, and I mean, I'm a duplicating star, like a living star and a duplicating star. There's there's importance there. And I know they've known its importance since I was a youth.
Breaking news, we've just learned the House Ethics Committee is investigating embattled Congressman George Santos from New York. Speaker Kevin McCarthy affirming that just moments ago.
Well, the one thing I've known is the questions have been risen. The people of this district have voted for him. The process, ethics is moving through. If ethics finds something, we'll take action. Right now, we're not allowing him to be on committee from the standpoint of the questions that have been raised.
So ethics is actually investigating right now?
Yes.
All of this, of course, after Santos admitted to lying about much of his past, and federal prosecutors are investigating his finances. It comes as dozens of his constituents are pulling into D.C. right now to demand Santos either resign or be removed. Long Island reporter Shantae Lanz is on the bus traveling with them now and joins us live. Shantae?
Again, it's interesting that you said pulling in. We're less than 10 minutes away from Capitol Hill. We are pretty much here. We got on this bus around 7 a.m. There have been some naps, there have been some chants, but the mission is the same. Two groups came together. They have signatures, about 1,000 to 1,500, that they will hand deliver to Congressman Santos's office. They say they want him to step aside and step down based off of the web of lies, many of them he admitted to telling. This all happening right now. It's a culmination of 7 weeks since the New York Times story first broke on December 19th. There have been rallies all over Long Island, outside of his Queens District office. This is probably the second largest group to head out and to do something organized together. In fact, it's not just about what the congressman did, according to these folks. It's also the stories and why this all matters. And right here, we have some young people. They're not even old enough to vote. Two 17-year-olds from Farmingdale High School. I spoke with them earlier, Kylie and Brendan. And also back here is Taima. Now, Taima, her family is a refugee from Afghanistan, and she explained to me earlier, tell me one more time, the significance of why having an appropriate congressperson, according to you guys, in office right now.
Now, she's going to speak. I've never heard this version of explaining how things, the inner workings of here work, tied to, I don't know if it's the State Department elsewhere. This gets confusing on there's been no construction of a theory or how this actually is handled or works from inside the United States of America. I don't know how the outside states are working. So I'm listening to her, and she has more of an education on this than I do, which is frightening based on the fact that I've been here the whole time. They asked for a paper to be signed so I could be kept inside the intelligence community, and then they failed to ever make contact and keep me in the loop and like in some form. I mean, I really would have preferred like a paid for position amongst humanity. But again, I mean, there's been nothing even offered as far as I can recall.
Well, I came here I was 5 years old as Afghan refugees. Um, and for the past 2 years, I've been very involved because I speak Farsi and I've volunteered on campaigns, so I know how to contact my members of Congress, senators, and
Now, the Swazi sticker was in just outside the gates of Zion Episcopal Church, on the green awning. Um, I again I don't think I've ever met the man, but there was a consulate. I don't know how that works. That was across the street in the Kent building, Kent, and it had an Afghanistan flag outside. I pointed it out on YouTube, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. Not sure what that was about. They put some other flag up there. I went for a doctor's appointment just recently, and the way that office was constructed, with consulate being there, looks like they may have shut down. It doesn't look like they're there any longer.
and I've been helping people try to get in contact with the people in the military that they work with, and the State Department. I had the former Congressman Tom Swazi had helped us get a couple of the interpreters into the U.S. Just last week, we had one interpreter come into the U.S. After his Navy veteran committed suicide, and he wasn't able to get in contact with him. These members of Congress have functions, and their constituents depend on them for many different things. Me personally, I have something that I depend on them for, and there are people that depend on them. These interpreters are waiting overseas with their lives in limbo, and I need my member of Congress to help me get their cases in front of the State Department and to advocate for me.
What does that mean? Like their cases? Their cases of what? And advocate for whom? For her, for what? What does she need while she's here? Like this, there's this gigantic limbo system that there's a break in communication on the interior of the United States, because I'm listening to her. I'm able to follow along to a degree, but it's not 100% of a degree because there's some kind of shade over this story. I'm not sure. I guess I get that there's inside outside, but like again, this is like, I know how I've been treated here. I know how I've been hunted here. I know that I've been harmed here on the interior in New York. And I'm and the with like holding of information from my person, so this way there's like a two-way communication. I mean, it really feels, the more that I look around and the older I get, and now how horribly I'm feeling, like there's a lot more going on. um but it started before the bad blood marriage and the bad blood situation got thrown as a curveball into my whatever. It started earlier than that.
Thank you. And you're also from Queens, so you're from this district as well. And that's just one story that I've heard. I've heard many throughout this journey to D.C., and we'll, of course, be stepping off in just minutes. And they will head to the congressman's office, also trying to speak to House Speaker McCarthy. And we will, of course, be there every step of the way, bringing you the latest from 4, 5, and 6. Live in D.C., Shantae Lands, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Shantae, thank you for that. And the commotion around Congressman Santos.
Now here's the second part of this story.
Lance was on that bus, joins us live now from D.C. with the latest. Shantae.
Well, David, I can tell you those constituents say they're frustrated. The residents from Queen and Long Island that boarded that bus around 7 a.m., they arrived here about 12:30 this afternoon, met with other Congress members from New York, but were extremely disappointed when they were unable to meet with their own. They spoke with Congressman George Santos' aide twice today. The same aide, once when they first delivered the petitions to him outside of the Capitol building, and then a second time they walked right to his office just about an hour and a half ago. That same aide came out, accepted the petitions. Again, they asked to speak with Congressman Santos, and he said that he was not available. And from there, the halls got completely crowded, and they demanded to speak with the congressman. Again, the best word that they described was frustration, disappointment, and they say they want their congressman to be more present. They want him to be at events. They want him to be able to help constituents that need a congressperson. This is what they said to me on the bus, and they reiterated outside of his office, as well as outside of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's office, who did not meet with them. Take a listen.
It was more upsetting than I thought it would be. The lack of acknowledgement, the lack of engagement, the lack of respect was kind of gut-wrenching.
I think he was in that office, and I think he's just a chicken. I think he's a chicken, and he's on top of him being a liar and a charlatan and probably a criminal. Today we found out that he is a chicken, and because he is afraid of his constituents.
Now, it's not actually clear if Congressman Santos was in that office. The door was closed, was kept almost shut as the aide came outside. We do want to mention that they also went to Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's office and knocked to speak with her. As they were speaking with her aide, she slipped out of a side door with some sort of a fire official. She knew that they were there, and she turned her back and walked away. That's according to them. I saw a woman walking away. They say they saw her face. Back to you.
Not a good look. All right, Shantae, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, President Biden.
Now, interestingly enough, I watched this morning Dragnet. It's DR14 Public Affairs. It says Friday again and organize a citizens action committee in a high crime neighborhood. I watched it. There are some parts that are more important than others. It's season 11, episode 10. So again, as like more of like a reference for like, that's the only level of communication, and I only just got to see that this morning. And how did the forefathers or the grandparents before this, I mean, like, it really feels like there's been a race going on the whole time, and just, I don't know, some tactical disadvantaged. But I don't understand how that can be when there's stars and astrological programming. There's sheets of information at like Book of Kings level, or I don't even know, I don't have the words for it. As to the special children, the travelers or the in the stars, that know about the universe and the solar system on a completely different, deeper level than the rest of the children. Um, Unexplained phenomenon, that kind of stuff. I mean, I've been like that since I was a kid. Um, so it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. Oh, and they sent me whatever the day showed up yesterday on the run. Um, I was doing the exercise in the morning, or the run in the morning, um, by the lake, and they actually were interactive. Some of the community members. There was a woman who tried to find out how many laps I had done. So I told her 8. Again, I don't want to go 7 because that's like Brady Bunch's territory and his numbers. I'm 8. I'm supposed to be dainty. I'm supposed to be a lady and dainty. It's supposed to be 8 for me, to go with the 78. So I'm like, I don't really know, big brother, little sister kind of a thing, how else to voice that. Um, and then today, there was another person who showed up. Um, he reminded me to stretch, which I thought was really important because sometimes I forget because I don't have these like lifelong coaches. Like, there was one really important day camp situation where they taught us to tread water till we tired, and then how to recoup some of our energy if it ever came into whatever, um as like passing words of wisdom. but but I don't have that on, like, I wish I did. I wish I had an uncle, a dad, whatever, with that level and pearls of wisdom and that like important level of knowledge that I've needed my entire life, and like motivation and like just whatever. But there has not been any of that in the series of rooms that I've been in. Um, so anyhow, so today, um, there was somebody that interacted who reminded me to stretch it up, which I thought was really important. To thank you for the small blessings. Um, It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.